Wow, today I feel fancy because I'm ready to scale my business. The question is, are you? Today, you're gonna learn the 5 different ways to know if you're ready to scale your business. Hey, it's Jesse Eker, and today I'm going to be sharing the 5 different ways to know if you're ready to scale your business. Now, in context, what does scaling really mean? Scaling means that you're going to be growing your business to a certain level to scale it out bigger than what you have right now. That could be 10x, that could be 100x, that could be whatever level you decide it to be, but scaling just means you're opening it up. So, are you ready to scale? Well, today I'm going to share with you how you know that you could be potentially ready to open up the floodgates and get your business to the level that you want it to be. Number 1, the first way that we want to think about scale is the front end of it. Usually that means the lead generation of it, or if you're doing a low cost sale at the front, that would be the amount of front end buyers that you get. So we need to think about, is your lead generation having the ability to scale? Many people who are doing like organic marketing, the unfortunate thing about organic marketing is there's like this cap to what you can potentially do with it on an ongoing basis, in a short period of time. And so the system that you're using for lead generation might have a cap on it for right now. And so that if you have a cap on what you're doing with your lead generation right now, and you can only get a certain amount of leads, well, then you need to think about, how can I create a new system or new strategy that's going to help me basically untap the ceiling, right? It's going to blow the ceiling. We're not going to have a ceiling. And most of the time that's going to be, using paid ads. So paid ads creates some sort of predictability. It also gives you kind of an infinity amount of options with markets, because there's so many different types of networks you can use. Within organic, there's different types of ways you can do organic. You can get more people involved organically. That's great, but there's always going to be some sort of cap, most likely, for what you can do, right? So we need to be thinking about, what's our lead generation strategy, and does our lead generation strategy have a cap on what we can potentially do to get the amount of leads that we need to actually hit the numbers that we want? Because what ends up happening is the more, systematically, the more leads that you get that are qualified, the more qualified leads you get, the more sales you should get, right? And they should lead together. Now, if you don't have a system where you can see consistently the more leads that you get, the more sales you get, and it doesn't have this input-output system of you getting that result, so more leads doesn't mean more sales, well, then you already know that you have a hole in your system and you're not ready to scale. So the scaling system really starts with the lead generation, of increasing that, but you need to have this result of, when you increase leads, you should also increase sales, and that's one of the ways you're ready to scale. Number 2, your numbers scale. It's really important to know your numbers, and the numbers really are indication if you're ready to scale or not. So we need to look at the profit margin between what it costs to acquire a lead or a customer, a low-cost customer, and what we actually earn on per lead or on that sale. And we can look at that in multiple different ways, but we need to have some sort of profit margin on that. So let's say, for an example, that our price of our program was $5,000, and to acquire one of those buyers for $5,000, it costs us $1,500, which means that we have a profit margin now of $3,500. That's a pretty good profit margin, right? If the rest of the business scales and looks good and we're able to scale that out, well, then those are really good numbers for us to look at. But let's just say that right now, we are paying a cost per lead. Let's just say our cost per lead is, $25, but our earnings per lead is $30, right? Well, that's a $5 profit margin. As you scale, your numbers tend to get worse and worse. So is that going to cause an issue for you if you go above your earnings per lead? So let's say you're now paying $35 per lead, but your earnings per lead is only $30. Is that going to cause an issue with you? Is that going to be a problem with you? Something that you need to think about when you're working with your numbers. So one of the biggest things here is just understanding 2 parts. One is, do you have a front end system that leads to a back end system? The front end system means that you can lose money on the front end or break even because your back end system creates profits for what you're doing. So this is a classic example of, charging for a $2,000 program, and you maybe break even on that $2,000 program, but then you have a $10,000 package, and that doesn't cost any money to acquire those people, that new client. So that's $10,000 more towards profit of what you're doing. The numbers need to scale. You need to think it through from start to finish as far as cost per acquisition to the earnings per acquisition. And if you have the nice profit margin that can scale, knowing that your numbers are going to get a little bit worse, then you have a next indicator that you are ready for scale. The third thing, something that people don't necessarily think about. So one of the common examples people use is if you put $1 into a machine and it gives you $3 back, would you ever stop using that machine? And the answer is duh, yeah, obviously. But in most cases, the $3 you get back is not always the $3 you get back initially. Right? Sometimes that $3 you get back is over 30, 60, 90, 100 days, right? So the question is, how fast can you recover your cash? And will your cash recovery rate be quicker than your burn rate, right? Burn rate is how fast you go through it. Your recovery rate is how fast you recover it. And so you need to be thinking about how quickly do you recover your cash? And when do you recover it? Is it 30, 60, 90 days? And do you have a system for doing all of that, right? Because lots of times when you're scaling out, you might have to put some different options in place to recover that cash quicker or to get more sales. And so that might mean that you might have to go negative for a month or two before you get positive return on your investment. And that's how you can really scale, is by paying more to acquire those customers because you have the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately though, if you run out of cash, you run out of the room for scaling. So you need to have a good indication of, what you're gonna earn after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and how much cash do you have to be able to recover that. So make sure you don't run out of capital, because then you're gonna be capped at what you can scale. The fourth thing, one really big thing here is your sales system. So do you have a system in place for how you sell someone that can scale, and something that you are aligned with scaling as well? One of the big examples I see all the time is they use someone on the phones, right? Or maybe you're on the phone selling someone. Well, if you start to scale and getting more leads in the door, that means that's gonna be more phone calls for you to be taking. What if you don't have enough room? Can you scale? Probably not, right? So you're probably gonna have to get a new salesperson, and then you're gonna have to build those sales people and manage them and train them so that they can handle the new leads that are coming in. So are you thinking about that sales system right now? Does that have the ability to scale? One thing that we do is the virtual events. This is an opportunity for you to go from one to many, and an opportunity for you to teach a bunch of people and get a rush of people either buying right away or moving to calls, in a short period of time, where you don't have to have a big sales team. So the virtual events is a sales system that scales because it allows thousands and thousands of people, or infinity amount of people, to get on these events so that they can start to get qualified to see if they're the right people. So do you have a sales system that scales? That's up to you, and that's up to you to decide on what you want to do. And number five is the last one, which is really, you got to make a decision for you. Are you good with scaling? Because a lot of times you don't really think about the ramifications of what scaling actually means. Do you want more clients? Do you want a bigger team? Do you want the complexities that could potentially come with new scale opportunities? Again, we talked about the phone call. Do you want to manage a phone team? Do you want someone in place to manage that? Is that something that's aligned with you? Many times we think so much about the numbers we want to achieve and less about what it's actually going to do to us, our time, and our freedom. What I want you to make a decision on is use a strategy that's still aligned with what you truly want when it comes to your business and the ability to scale. So truly think about, how much more time and effort are you going to be putting into it? Are you going to be spending your time on things that you love to do or things that you hate to do? Do you want to build that type of business, or are you okay with something different? Just because you're making more revenue does not mean you're making more profit. That's a big one. Just because you're making more revenue doesn't mean you're making more profit. So what is more aligned with you, and where do you want to go? That's a choice you need to make. And if you choose to go to the next route, you're ready to scale. So out of the 5, which has been the biggest impact for you? What's been the biggest insight for you today? And let me know in the comments below so that I can interact with you and have a conversation with you so that we can decide if scaling is right for you. Now, if you want to use virtual events to help scale your sales this year, there's going to be a link below to get on our waiting list for our next event so that you can come join us to learn how we use our virtual events using the breakthrough method to get more visibility, build your authority very quickly, and learn how to leverage your business to get ready for scale. So go ahead and check that out in the description, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention for being here, and it's an honor to watch you learn and grow. Let's create you a 7-figure brand this year using virtual events.